Well, NOAA's declared La Nina conditions to be over, with neutral conditions taking over as we head into summer.
Joining us now is meteorologist Christian Bridges to tell us what El Nino, La Nina, and neutral means and some possible implications for the upcoming hurricane season.
That's right, you guys. Yeah, and sometimes people refer to neutral as La Nada. So we'll throw in another Spanish term. You know,
Why
nada,
not?
basically nothing.
Yeah.
You know, neither
I
El Nino
that.
or La Nina.
Neutral's boring.
Yeah,
I know.
neutral,
La nada.
La Nada.
Plus,
That's
it's
right.
more fun to say La Nada.
La nada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what exactly that means. First, I want to break down what El Nino and La Nina are. I feel like a lot of people get them mixed up, and they are, you know, kind of difficult concepts to understand, but it all has to do with temperatures in one area of the Pacific Ocean. It's kind of interesting how these water temperatures off the coast of South America have such big implications on the weather patterns we see around the entire globe. So when we have El Nino, this is something that's been recognized by sailors for hundreds of years off of the coast of South America, and now, of course, we've got much better instruments to, you know, measure this sort of thing. So it is when there is above average water temperatures along the equator off the coast of South America. So when the water is warmer there, that has impacts on our weather in the U.S. It often leads to a warm, dry winter across the northern tier of the United States and a wet, stormy winter across the southern tier of the U.S. A little bit more of a wild card here in New England, but tends to be warmer and wetter here when we have an El Nino winter. Now, when it comes to La Nina, or I should say El Nino's hurricane effects, let's talk about that really quickly. The winds above our heads, high up in the atmosphere, are very strong usually during an El Nino year, so we often have a below average hurricane season, so fewer hurricanes than normal. The strong winds aloft kind of rip them apart before they can become hurricanes. Now, when we have La Nina, which is what we just came out of, this is the opposite of El Nino. The water off the coast of South America is cooler than average. So this also has impacts on the weather in the U.S. It often leads to a cool winter across the northern tier. We kind of experienced that this winter. It was kind of a chilly one and can be stormy as well, especially across the northwest. Can often lead to drought conditions across the southeast and the southern tier, with warm and dry conditions in the southeast for a La Nina winter. Now, what about the hurricane impacts? Well, because there's less wind aloft, we often get really bad hurricane seasons in La Nina years. Last year we had Helene, we had Milton. It was a La Nina year. Of course, that did lead to a very active hurricane season. Now, let's talk about what happens when we are La Nada. That's right, neutral. So it's kind of the transition between El Nino or La Nina, or vice versa. The temperatures in the Pacific usually are right around average, and it can kind of be a wild card when it comes to hurricane season. So when we get a neutral year, we kind of look at other factors, like what are the temperatures in the Atlantic looking like, and they are above average across much of the Atlantic. Anywhere that you see in that orangey color, those are above average temperatures. Notice only a few spots in blue where the temperatures are actually below average in the Atlantic. So what does that mean for hurricane season? Well, that skews the deck a little bit towards an above average season. So if we had a normal Atlantic this year, you know, in terms of temperatures, we'd probably end up with a normal hurricane season. But early forecasts are calling for at least a slightly above average season. You can see the normal number of named storms is 14. They're forecasting 17 from Colorado State University's first forecast, which came out a few weeks ago. They're forecasting 9 hurricanes above the average of 7 and 4 major hurricanes above the normal of 3. But of course, only time will tell what this hurricane season will bring, but a little bit more of a wild card this year. When we have El Nino or La Nina, kind of bakes in what the hurricane season might bring, but this year it's kind of like, who knows? Kind of anybody's guess.
And we all wish when it comes to hurricane season, if we just had
nada.
Nada. I know. It would be nice. We've had a really crazy string of active years, so it would be nice to get a break, or at least just a break from ones that hit the United States, you know?
Well, thanks for breaking that down for us. That's good stuff.
There you
Now we got a fun word to say.
Now you got a fun word.
You got to be saying it all day.
El Nino, La Nina, La Nada. There you go.
All right.
And if you've got any weather-related questions you'd like to ask our Weather Authority team, you can always email us at weather@wgme.com.